Today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you an elegant autumn card featuring the new stamp set duo, Harvest Memories. In today's technique, I want to show you a quick and easy way to color this beautiful basket of apples using Copic markers and a Copic colorless blender pen. Let me show you the tools and products you need to do this technique. First, you're going to need an ink pad, and I'm using the Memento Tuxedo Black ink. You can also use the Gina Designs black ink if you have good luck with it when using Copic markers and you don't mind heat setting it or giving it a few minutes to dry. You're also going to need a rubber stamp, and this is the beautiful basket of apples from the new Harvest Memories stamp set duo. Then you're going to need some Copic markers, and the ones that I'm using are R17, which is lipstick orange, G82, which is spring dim green, YR15, which is pumpkin yellow, E35, which is chamois, G99, which is olive, and R46, which is strong red. Then you're going to need a good quality cardstock, and for this I'm using the Gina Designs. This is our 120-pound heavy base weight cardstock. Now I am going to layer this image, so you don't have to use the 120-pound weight cardstock. You can use our 80-pound weight cardstock. But if you want to make a single layer card, our 120-pound weight cardstock is the only cardstock that I've found that doesn't bleed through when using Copic markers. So you can make single layer cards with it. And it's nice and sturdy for doing layers too. So either way, this is a great cardstock. So to begin, I'm going to ink up this basket of apples stamp with this Memento ink pad. And when you stamp this, you'll see it's a very, very sketchy, kind of stippled image. So there'll be little parts of it that will look like they're dropping out. That is all part of the image, and that's the way it's supposed to look. So there is that image. Now let's just get in a little tighter here so I can show you how I'm going to start coloring this. The first color that I'm going to use is the pumpkin yellow, and that's the YR15. And what I want to do is, now remember, I am no Copic marker expert here. I just like to have fun with my Copic markers. So you may find better techniques of how to do real fancy shading and shadowing. But this is just a nice way to make the apples appear like they're glowing and they're nice and ripe, and it doesn't take a lot of Copic marker experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color just a line of this pumpkin yellow in the same spot on all of these apples, just like this. You see I'm just coloring the one side there. Very easy to do. And I am using the sketch markers. You can also use the Chow markers or the original markers. Some on that side and some on this side. Okay, so that's my first part. I'm going to put this marker aside, and then I'm going to pick up the R17, which is the lipstick orange. And now I'm going to do another stripe right next to that in the lipstick. And you can see I'm not doing any blending just yet. Now once you see this, you're going to maybe be a little bit less afraid of Copic markers if you are afraid. Some of you are beautiful Copic marker artists out there, but I've always been a little bit intimidated by them, and so I'm trying to come up with ways that make it very easy to color with them without intimidation. So there's the second color, just another little stripe going down. And then my last color is the R45 strong red. That will be my last apple color. Okay, so that one. Just going to color the rest of the apple in that. And I'm going around that leaf. And don't worry if there's a little bit of white showing, because we're going to go back and using other markers, we're going to blend this all together. And we'll get this done down here. And that might look a little silly to you when you first look at it. You see those three, you see striped apples. Well, that's not how we want them to ultimately look. So our next step is to take the yellow marker again, that's the pumpkin yellow, and we're going to take some of this yellow and we're going to blend it into the next color over. Just by coloring over both of them together along the line, it's going to blend them together a little bit. See how easy that is? Every time you hit it with a Copic marker, it reactivates that ink, and they both become movable and they kind of blend together along the line. Okay, so now we've blended that color. Now we're going to take the next color, which is R17 again, that's the one that's the middle stripe, and we're going to blend that together with the darker red. And we can go into that yellow a little bit more. And then we're going to go back with that darker red one last time and add a little bit more darker red to it. I'm just kind of going up and over and then kind of blending it a little bit in with the yellow. And as that ink stays a little bit wet, those lines start to just magically disappear. Like that. And now my last color, again, I'm going to pick up that strong red, that R46, and I'm going to highlight again just underneath here, just right along the very edge, just to make it really dark over there in the corners. And then you might see some areas that don't look quite blended enough to you. And I do, so I'll show you what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do on this particular one here is I'm going to go back to that middle stripe color, and that was the R17, and I'm just going to bring some of that over into that yellow a little bit. A couple little spots that may not look blended enough. And then of course if you go too far and you want to bring some more yellow in, just pick up the yellow again and blend that all back together, and that'll bring more of the yellow in. So going back and forth between the markers will really blend everything together and take away any of that, any of those lines that were prevalent when you first laid down the color. I really like that yellow in there though. It really brightens things up, makes everything look like it glows. Okay, and there they are all colored in. Now we're going to add a little bit of green, so I'm going to go with the olive, and that one is the G99. I'm going to just color in the leaf, but then I'm going to pull a little bit of that color off using that colorless blender. I see I missed a tiny spot of apple here, so I'm going to just dab a little red in there. Now I'm going to grab that colorless blender, and this one is an original marker, but you can use a sketch marker because both of them come to a nice little point. And I'm just going to color into the center a little bit, just pulling a little bit of that color out to make it kind of glow more toward the center. So you can pick up more of that green color. It's not so dark. Now I'm going to color the basket, and I'm going to use the chamois, that's the E35. And I'm going to color the whole basket in, not worrying about blending or shading just yet. Just worried about staying inside the lines. And you'll love all the detail in this image. It really takes a lot of the work away for you. You just have to add color, and a lot of that shading is already in there because of the detail. When you first see this, it seems like there's a lot of black in there, but once you stamp it and then you color it, then the black and the brown mix really nicely together and you get a real rich look. So we'll get the handle. And then we're going to grab that colorless blender again. Now, on both the sketch markers and the original markers, there is that chisel side. And I like to use that chisel side for taking color off of big areas. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to rub down some of the areas where the basket is sticking out. I'm going to kind of rub down on that to kind of pull off some of that color, make it look a little bit more worn where it's sticking out, almost like it's been bumped around a little bit. So that just pulls the color off and it makes it look a little worn there. I'm going to do the same thing kind of on a little bit of an angle to match the angle of the way the handle is twisted, and just pull a little bit of color off in different areas. Just a little bit, not a lot. Okay. And then I'm going to pick up that Spring Dim Green. That's the G82. And I'm going to go over some of those areas that I lightened with a little bit of green, just to make it look a little worn and aged. See how that just fills in? And I'll do a couple of the little stripes here. They're not really stripes, they're just twists, but add a little bit of green in there to give it a little bit of an aged look, almost a mossy look. So there is my finished colored basket. And it really looks dimensional with all of that detail in that stamp. Now let me show you a finished card project that I made using this colored piece. Here's my card. And what I did here, see there's the basket before and there it is in the card. So what I did here was I used a Swiss dot Cuttlebug folder to emboss the background here of this white cardstock, and then I mixed a little panel of our Gina K Designs Cherry Red cardstock. Then for the focal image, I cut it out with a round Spellbinders die, one of the circle dies, and one of the lacy circle dies to give it that lacy scalloped edge. Then this particular panel here I cut on my silhouette. Now there are beautiful punches out there, and there's also lots of Spellbinders and other companies' dies that will do this same kind of look. So if you have a die or a punch, even if it's not the same look, it could be just a plain scallop or something else, you can substitute that in. And then here's the greeting that comes in this stamp set duo, wishing you a harvest of sweet memories. And I cut that out using one of the Spellbinders labels dies, one of their fancy, I believe this is from one of their grommet tag sets. And then I added 2 eyelets in there just to jazz up those ends. And of course, you may have different greeting labels that you can use, maybe a punch, or you can use something on your electronic cutter, or you can use one of the dies like I did here. And put that all together onto a white card base, and that is a really fun card to make. I like just taking this image and sitting on the couch and coloring a whole bunch of baskets and getting them ready to send out mass cards for different holidays and things. So this is a really nice duo, and it sure does make a pretty card. The Harvest Memory Stamp Set Duo is a great little set to get started on some early autumn cards. Mix your favorite grateful greeting, and this little set can take you through the Thanksgiving holiday too.